This is Wells Math, and today we're going to be adding fractions. So let's just get right to it. First of all, I want to start with probably one of the most basic adding fractions problems. Only takes about 10 seconds to solve. We've got 1/5 plus 3/5. And the reason this one's going to be so easy is because when you're adding fractions like this, you need a common denominator. That just means your bottom number in your fractions need to be the same. In this one, they're already the same, okay? So let's look at what it says. Once you have your common denominator, all you are going to do is add your numerators, your top numbers in your fraction. 3 plus 1 is 4. And then we will keep the denominator the same. So the 5, we will just keep it like it is. So 1/5 plus 3/5 is going to equal 4/5. So if your fractions already have the same denominator, it's that easy. Just add the top numbers, your numerators, keep the denominator the same. But let's step it up just a little bit. Let's look at 1/2 plus 1/4. Now remember, first thing we need to do is get a common denominator. So let's look at our two bottom numbers, the 2 and the 4. And I see a really good relationship between a 2 and a 4. I know that I can change this 2 into a 4 if I multiply times 2. Now, if you do that and you multiply the bottom number times 2, you have to do the same exact multiplication problem to your numerator, the top number, okay? So what we're really technically doing is changing 1/2 into an equivalent fraction by doing these two multiplication problems. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So 1/2 and 2/4 are exactly the same thing. They are equivalent fractions. I do have a YouTube video on my YouTube channel titled Equivalent Fractions if you want to see a little bit more about that. Now we will just keep our 1/4 the same. We're not going to change it at all because it already has that 4 for the denominator. I always like to show a visual when I'm doing these. So let's look up here very quickly. I'm going to cut this one in half to represent the 1/2. I'm going to shade it in yellow here. That represents our first fraction, 1/2. And then I want to do, on the second one, I'm going to break this up into fourths, and I'm going to shade 1/4 of that circle. Now let's go back to our problem. Remember, once you have a common denominator, you're just going to add the top numbers, your numerators. 2 plus 1 equals 3, and we will keep the denominator the same. So let's go back to our visual here. Now we said that 1/2 is the same as 2/4. So I'm going to shade in 2 out of the 4 pieces in yellow here. And then my second fraction was the 1/4, so I'm just going to shade 1 out of the 4 there. And now you can clearly see, we know our answer to this problem is 3/4, and we do have 3/4 of our circle shaded, okay? So with this problem, we just needed to change one of our fractions, the 1/2, into 2/4 to get a common denominator. If I were you, I would pause this video, write this down. It's very helpful if you write these in your notes. But let's step it up just a little bit. Let's do another problem here. We've got 2/5 plus 3/8. Very first thing we need to do, find a common denominator. Find a number that is divisible by both 5 and 8. Now, one way you can always do this is multiply your two denominators against each other. 5 times 8 is 40. So we can use 40 as a common denominator. So I'm going to come down here below and I'm going to go ahead and write my 40. Do that real quick. Now we cannot just bring this 2 down and this 3 down. Okay, that's not going to work. Here's what you're going to ask yourself. What did we multiply this 5 by to equal 40? Well, we multiplied it times 8. So we're going to do the same exact thing to the top. Multiplied the bottom by 8, we're going to multiply the top by 8. And 2 times 8 is 16. So 2/5 is equivalent to, it is equal to 16/40. Those are equivalent fractions. Now let's look at our 3/8. How did we turn this 8 into a 40? Well, we multiplied it times 5. So we're just going to go to the top, do the exact same thing. 3 times 5 is 15. That will be our new numerator. So technically, both of these problems here you see mean the exact same thing. They're just using different numbers. Now, we have our common denominator, the 40. So we're going to keep that the same. And then we're just going to add the numerators. 16 plus 15 is 31. Your answer to this problem is 31 over 40, or 31/40. Okay. And let's do one more. Like I said, pausing this video, writing this stuff down, it's always good to have a sample problem in your notes so you can go back and look at those. Let's do one more. We've got 2/3 plus 4/7. First thing we're going to do, common denominator. You have to have it anytime you add or subtract fractions. We're looking at the 3. We're looking at a 7. We're thinking, is there a number that is divisible by both 3 and 7? With this one, again, we can just multiply the two denominators together against each other. 3 times 7 is 21. So let's use 21 as our common denominator. Now we need to figure out what our numerators are going to be. So let's look at the 3. How did we turn the 3 into a 21? What did we multiply it by? Well, we multiplied it times 7. So we're going to have to do that to the top and the bottom. 2 times 7 is 14. 2/3 is equal to 14 over 21. Let's look at our second fraction. How did we turn the 7 into a 21? Well, we just multiplied it times 3. That lets us know we need to do times 3 to our numerator as well. And 4 times 3 is 12. Once we get that common denominator, we will keep that denominator the same, and we will add the top. Let's see, 14 plus 12 is 26. So this is the answer we got, but look, it looks a little weird, okay? This is called an improper fraction. The top number is bigger than the bottom number, so we're not going to be able to leave it like that, okay? So watch very closely as we change this improper fraction into a mixed number. I do have a YouTube video on that as well on my channel. Go check that out. I work several problems about how to do this, but it's really not that bad. Here's what I tell my students. Every fraction is really a division problem. 26 over 21 really means 26 divided by 21. So let's write that out. The first number in your division problem is the number that goes inside the house. And your second number, your divisor, goes outside. So this is going to be a pretty easy division problem to work. How many groups of 21 will go into 26? Well, there's only one group. that'll go into 26. But that only gets us to 21 because 1 times 21 is 21. So we will subtract and get 5 for our remainder. But we're not going to say the answer is 1 remainder 5, all right? You're kind of done doing that. That's what they do in like first and second, third grade, stuff like that. Here's what you're going to do with your remainder from now on when you're doing these. Your remainder just comes up and becomes your numerator in your fraction. Your denominator, which is also that divisor, 21, will stay the same. The answer to this problem is 1 and 5 over 21. Now, we didn't have to do this with the first few problems we worked because the answer we got down here was a proper fraction, okay? We only had to do this because we came up with an improper fraction for our answer. Now, if you want to see more about adding mixed numbers like 1.5 plus 2 2/3, I've got a YouTube video on that. Go check that out. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Wells Math. Hope you have a great day.